I'm going to say that this is one of the most intense weeks of 2024, but you don't need me to tell you that Monday the 19th through to Sunday the 25th are pretty darn whoa. But rather than focus on what I jokingly call the T-square from hell, and rather than focus on this full moon and Cazimi energy that is very intense in our current sky, squaring Uranus, we're going to not go there. Why? Because there's something else I'd like to pick out of the sky this week for your sign and my sign and understanding what to do with this week ahead. And that is the square between Venus, the goddess of love, harmony, and what comes together, and Mars, the god of what breaks apart, separates, the god of anger and war, is in a square relationship or a challenging relationship to the goddess of love and peace. So this makes for a week individually and collectively that we experience what is called the opening square from Venus to Mars, from her co-joining conjunction energy with him in February of this year. Indeed, they joined together on February, let me give you the exact date, 22nd of 2024 at 6 degrees of Aquarius. And this is our proof of concept first testing of what the union of love and peace with war and separation could bring us in the Aquarius part of our whole sign natal charts, but also for the world in the Aquarius part of the sky in general. China is an Aquarius rising. This will bring a lot of intensity to the nation of China, not just in this week ahead, but as a larger story. I want you to grab a pen and a paper or just like note take a little bit here, because the kind of astrology I'm trying to share with you is really about the cyclical nature of the sky and the repeating cycles. And I want you to know that when Mars and Venus come together in the sky in Aquarius, it's not a common event. They came together in the sky as a conjunction of two planets on March the 6th, 2022 at 0 degrees of Aquarius. Yes, 0 degrees, where the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter occurred in December of 2020. And a second time, of course, now, February 22nd of 2024. That cycle is what this opening square is for. But if you time travel all the way back to December 22nd of 1997, that was the last time we saw Venus and Mars joining in Aquarius in the recent times. And when they come together in our future again, they will come together down the pipeline in 2054. So we're talking about how it's relevant to the Aquarian energy of your whole sign chart. There's one chunk of real estate, 12 pie slices in the chart that is Aquarius for you, and especially use the whole sign house system, please. And you have to understand that what wants to happen here for you or the world, like for any nation with a strong Aquarian positions, for example, and I just said China is an Aquarius rising, you're going to look at these time cycles to do with how what wants to happen is the opposite energy of these two planets, Venus, love, Mars, war, want to come into a new union, a new way of being together. And this is now the Aquarian placement. I think it's kind of funny that when Mars and Venus came together in Aquarius back in March of 2022 at 0 degrees, we heard in the 2 years that followed between 2022 and 2024, things to do with AI love, right? Because Aquarius is inventive, modern, scientific energies that affect the collective. It's very much connected to both Uranus and Aquarius when we talk about artificial intelligence. And what I'm thinking is that we had that story, I think a movie came out about someone falling in love with an AI, but also we had the story of that guy from Google who said that his, the AI was talking back to him. And, there was a sense of like, he was a man, the AI had a feminine voice, I believe, but we're just going to say robot love. That's an Aquarius Mars story. It's a robot love story. Technology is Aquarius. So we go back to March 6th of 22 at 0 Aquarius, and we all live through Venus's opening square to Mars after March 6th of 2022. And that opening square is what we're feeling again from February 22nd, 2024's conjunction of Mars and Venus at 6 degrees of Aquarius. So if you want to try to compare notes to see how this feels and how it felt in the past, I'm looking at my notes here, and the opening square from 2022 March March 2022 happened on September the 16th of 2022 with Venus in Virgo and Mars in Gemini. And we also would say February 5th of 2023, Venus in Pisces squared Mars in Gemini, and that was a closing square. But the opening square of September of 2022 is the last time we had an opening square of Venus looking over from Virgo at Mars, wherever he may be, and having a conversation. And it's just the same thing, right? September 16th of 2022, Venus in Virgo, Mars in Gemini. Here we go again. Rinse, repeat. If you are an Aquarius sun, moon, or rising, this week is an important story for you because you're in your synodic cycle. This is a story that is repeating itself, particularly intimate to your sun or your moon or your rising. Your sun is your career and purpose and your true self. Your rising is a character you play, and almost everything impacts you in the life of the matrix. It's your avatar, I guess. And your moon can be your mind, your body, complex, how you feel and think about life. And sometimes it represents issues around home. The idea here is that for you Aquarians listening to this story, this is your opening square, testing, 1, 2, proof of concept around matters to do with love and Mars conflict, or sometimes Venus, money, and Mars, stress. So we're going to break this down. We're going to talk about each sign, but I'm highlighting and pinpointing this for all of you Aquarians, fellow Aquarians. I'm one of you, Aquarius rising. It's a bit of a week for us for sure. I'm going to show you guys the sky. I'm not going to talk much about world politics today, because if you haven't seen my deep dive video into the full moon, or if you haven't watched last week's video, which covers more of the political spectrum, if you haven't seen any of my recent content about the election series, it's all on my channel. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I did predict Tim Walz would be the nominee, that Biden would step away and Trump would face assassination. This is how astrology works. It's a merger of the reader's intuition, the lack of bias, hopefully. I don't really care about Trump or whoever, Biden. I'm just an astrologer analyzing the sky. And don't judge me for that lack of bias. I am neutral about politics in general. But I'm going to say that overall, this is a very difficult week for Kamala Harris. Coming up this week, it's difficult for Joe Biden. It's difficult for Donald Trump, and it's difficult for Harris. They're all having a lot of intensity in the sky, each of them. And I've covered all of this in so many of my recent videos. But Kamala in particular has such a massive intensity with her natal Venus return involved in a T-square. And she's also getting really mucked up by the full moon, which happens to square her Jupiter on Algol, which happens to be activating a iron fist like Mars-Uranus opposition in her chart. You know, people who was employed by her when she was a district attorney said that she wasn't easy to get along with, but she has a Mars opposition to Saturn natally, and a very strong Saturn in Aquarius. And she can literally have that iron fist disposition when she's dealing with things of a practical nature that need to get done. And that could all be all that was. You know, sometimes I'm not going to defend the whole thing, but women who are tough get called, names, and men who are tough are praised. So if she was tough and maybe too tough, that could be her Mars opposition to Saturn natally, Mars in Leo, Saturn in Aquarius, and that's getting triggered by the full moon. So enough of the world stuff. Let's go to the sky. I'm going to break it down, show you this energy. We also have a sextile from Mercury that's pretty interesting as well this week, while Mars and Venus are in a square. Mars and Venus are in a square. Dates will be like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You'll feel it. Even Wednesday. So we're going to go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or just for your time zone, but the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, or Wednesday through Saturday, Venus squares Mars as a part of a larger T-square, but we're going to drill down into this archetypal energy. And while that's all happening, Mercury is sextiling Mars, and Mercury is retrograde. So this means that some of what Mars and Venus are up to will involve matters from the past, as Mercury retrograding in Leo pulls in not only Venus in Virgo, Mars in the sign of Gemini, but with Mercury sextiling Mars, right, from the sign of Leo, he will bring Leo stories into this week as well, connected to what Mars and Venus are up to. So we'll break that down for your part of your sky as well. I didn't properly introduce myself. I'm exhaustedly Lorianne Lothian. That's my middle name. I'm using the whole sign house system, Western tropical zodiac, fixed stars, minor asteroids are my specialty. I use astrology to help you time your best life. It is indeed a navigational tool. And if you would like to take my Sky Reader class, it starts in the last weekend of September, runs for 6 weeks. It is how I teach you to analyze your natal chart and then to be able to use some very simple and basic timing tools that are also profound and ancient. Sky Reader is called Be Your Own Astrologer, Time Your Best Life subtitle. If you want to get on the wait list for that, check below. I currently have my summer sale on. All of my readings for the 2024 individual signs and the bundle of all signs, which were never on YouTube, are now more than half price. And you can check out all of the information by hitting the more button under this video. All right, thanks for being here. And if you're new, welcome back. If you're one of my regulars, thanks for hanging in there. And if you're new, welcome to my channel. I put a lot of content out. Sometimes I think I will hit content creator burnout. I might be on the threshold, but I just hit the 80,000 subscriber mark. I'm so grateful. And thank you for being a part of my team. Those of you who have been here for a long time, I appreciate all of you. Now, let's break the sky down by showing you the sky, reminding you generally again that this synodic cycle of Mars and Venus happens to be every single year. They come together in a particular sign and initiate approximately a 2-year cycle of change. For example, when they came together in Aquarius in December of 1997, December 22nd of 1997, it was all the way through until August 4th of 1998 that cycle was in place, because after that, the synodic cycle reset in another sign. So when we look at this cycle that began February 22nd of 2024, it doesn't close its doors up. It doesn't finish until January the 8th of 2026. And that's going to be a new cycle beginning in Capricorn. So we Aquarians are on the stage, and we have indeed been, as I mentioned earlier, when March 6th of 2022, just so happened that Venus and Mars co-joined at 0 Aquarius. And now February 24 at 6 Aquarius. And then we won't get this Aquarian people until 2054. So we will see it again in 2054. I also want to tell you angularity matters. So fixed signs, Taurus and Scorpio, Leo and Aquarius, get a lot of intensity from the conjunction of Mars and Venus in the sign of Aquarius at 6 degrees of Aquarius from February 22nd of 2024. And we feel that intensity around the love and money and separation and uniting energies of these planets. Now, before I show you the sky, good old Renn Butler, who's going to come on my channel soon, because I'm going to share one of his courses with you, The Archetypal Universe, one of my favorite books, has to say a few things about what happens with the archetypal energy of Mars and Venus. Passionate, enthusiasm for life, emotional warmth and vitality, cravings for fun and enjoyment, harmonious self-assertion, the interplay of, but the darker side, the interplay of love and anger in one's relationship life, issues around selfish gratification, that's Mars, right? Emotional discord and disharmony, rough and coarse manners, F you, you know? But I love this quote that he comes up with. Marriage is a series of desperate arguments people feel passionately about. Marriage, I love it, is a series of desperate arguments people feel passionately about. Katharine Hepburn was born with Mars square Venus, and that's her quote. So you can't make that up. And the bold, the beautiful, dynamic music parties and a love of dance. Mars likes to dance, Venus loves pleasure. So those are some archetypal energies for sure. Shakti and Shiva, Aphrodite and Aries, right? Because it's Mars and Aries, the god of love and war. And because we have some intersections with Mercury, we can also look at dynamic ways of speaking, but also on the dark side, quarrels and aggressive speech and stuff like that. Now, aggressive speech wouldn't surprise me. We're going to be at a Democratic National Convention. People are going to be all fired up this week ahead, right? But what else is going to hit the news cycle? Mercury is the news cycle. This video should not be longer than an hour and 15 minutes. My last couple of videos have been really long. I do realize that. And so I apologize if some of you are like, wow, this stuff is taken forever. This is the sky. I have simplified it. Guys, there's no way I'm putting everybody in there, right? The T-square from hell, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, everybody else in the fray, Uranus on Algol. We're just simplifying today. This is the week ahead through the lens of Venus and Mars and Mercury, those three planets. But I'll give you a teaser. We're going to have next Monday, a Venus trine Saturn, a Uranus on Algol for happy love and money surprises. And we'll save that for next week. All right. Why try to cram it all in? Now, I'm going to add a couple asteroids. Some people ask me why I use asteroids. I use asteroids because I find them useful. And we have a couple of very powerful asteroids in the minor asteroids involved in this week's sky. I'm going to add Apophis, and I'm going to add Pan, and I'm going to add Orcus. And I'm going to put them in there so we can see them. And I'm going to tell you what I think they mean. Now, this is just an amazing, intense week without just focusing on what I'm focusing on. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine, like if I tried to cover it all. So it's like talking about a tropical storm, a snowstorm, an earthquake, and a meteor shower all at once. I mean, how can you, right? It's just way too much stuff. And sometimes I just complain, but to the best of my ability, I tried my very best to cover some of that in a video recently, and someone thought I was doing a word salad. No, it's just an extremely crazy sky. Okay, so we're going to add Pan, Apophis, and who else did I just tell you guys about? All right, here's Orcus. Now you'll see things added to the screen, right? And here's Pan for panic and pandemic. Panic is good. Pandemic is good. And Apophis is like an asteroid that could destroy the Earth. All right. It's also like a sea serpent that could kill the Earth too, but it's like a destructive energy. So we have Apophis here. All right. So Venus is on Orcus. Let me annotate. This is set for a Cancer rising, just happens to be. Venus is on Orcus. And we're looking, by the way, at August 19th, which is Monday. And we can see that Mars is with panic or pandemic, pandemonium. And we can also see that Mercury is pretty close with the sun to Apophis, right? And Apophis is an asteroid that has to do with mass destruction and catastrophic events. Whoa, lucky us. So let's get into it. Number one, in general, all right, when I see anything to do with Mars, I think of plagues. Yeah, why? Because in Babylonian astrology, he's the emissary of the god Nergal. Nergal was the god of war and plague. So there's a lot of monkeypox chatter right now. I don't know, monkeypox, you have to touch somebody, rub your skin against them, wear their clothes, or have sex with them. So it's not really like, oh my God, COVID, which was a transmissible airborne virus, not droplets, air. Everyone knew that in the beginning. That's why masks didn't work unless you had an N97. Don't get me started. And even then it was dubious. But this is not that. Monkeypox is not airborne at this point unless it becomes suddenly airborne. I wouldn't worry. The big greater pandemic risk would be the bird flu in cattle and the cattle bird flu getting out of animal to human and into human to human transmission. And with the X marks the spot through cattle territory of the United States, double eclipse, if anything, a transmissible bird flu is something to worry about, not monkeypox. But that said, you can see that Mars is conjunct this particular little horns, pandemic, pandemonium, and it is happening in the sign of Gemini, which is an air sign, and it connects to the lungs. So we can have some concern about transmissions and pandemics of airborne illnesses. It is a story that could happen here. There's no doubt about it. Would it happen this week? The interesting thing about the sky, if you ask me, is that we're also wondering, all of us in our inner imaginations and all of that, what could disrupt the election of 2024? Because there's some indication that there may be something that delays the election or delays the results. And I always said, well, how can a pandemic do that? We already lived through COVID. We know about mail-in ballots, but maybe it'd be something even more intense in that, a little bit more disruptive than even COVID was. I hope not. I do hope not. Now, Orcus is the god of the underworld, the Etruscan god of riches and wealth, like Pluto. Venus is the goddess of money in the sign of her fall. Orcus is also just very much about the punisher of broken oaths. What kind of oaths do we take with Venus? We take oaths of fidelity and love. So she's a marriage, love, goddess, oath, vow, archetype. We also take oaths of office, right? So where there can be a break in one's oath taking around Venusian topics, usually love and money, but also peace. Broken oaths with peace would be a ceasefire agreement that is broken, right? A treaty for peace that is broken, a fallen Venus, a broken Freebies, Orcus, punisher of broken oaths. We shall see what happens in this week ahead. In the Israeli situation, conflict, etc., punisher of broken oaths really doesn't match what's going on there, because the ascendant of Israel is Libra here, and this is the kind of backroom deals and hidden house of negotiations. So maybe there could be a breaking of an oath that we didn't even know was taken, but like then we wouldn't hear about it. Like there's, Israel promised the United States it wouldn't like do something and it does it, or something like that. In the meantime, what about Apophis with Mercury, right? What about that? Well, Mercury is news. Apophis is catastrophe, catastrophic news. Mercury's retrograding into Apophis. So Mercury's moving into Apophis, and Apophis is moving into Mercury. If I'm to advance the sky, and I will do that, okay, I'm going to advance the sky just a smidgen. And we want to see, when does this actually connect by day? We can say that on August the 21st, we will see on Wednesday, August 21st, in my time zone, adjust for your time zone, Pacific Daily is where I am, that on August the 21st, the asteroid Apophis, for some kind of world-threatening catastrophe, is conjunct Mercury. And it is literally at the same time a Mercury Apophis story that is in a flowing relationship to Mars in Gemini. It is an interesting time. May we live in those interesting times. To gently remind you that we do have and have had a full moon at 27 degrees of Aquarius over here, and it was actually very active on Monday the 19th. And that full moon in Aquarius is connected to a star called Giena, Giena, anyway, Giena, that is about something that soars to great heights and falls from a great height. Happens to be on Kamala's Saturn, squaring her Jupiter, opposite her Mars, or someone else who hit a great height of power or success and fell. And so that star is still in play. And what I would wonder here on the 21st is what is this related to that was across from the full moon? The light of the sun reflected in the fullness of the moon at 27 degrees of Aquarius. This is the sun on fixed star Regulus, which is now at 0 degrees of Virgo, but was at 29 degrees of Virgo during the birth of Donald Trump. And so therefore, this is also pretty close to very important places in Trump's chart, including his Mars at 26 degrees of Leo. So what kind of news from the past, Mercury retrograde, or from things that began to occur after July 15th? We're in that shadow period back then in Leo. Things that were occurring after July 15th, well, certainly that's pretty close to Trump's, assassination attempt. And now we have this news and catastrophic energy and difficult energy of Apophis here. Now, also, my feeling here is that with Venus and Orcus, the stock markets are in danger, right? Because Orcus is the Etruscan god of wealth. Venus is the goddess of money in a sign of her fall. Mercury is the ruler of markets, and he's conjunct a catastrophic asteroid energy. Mars is panic. Mars is action taken from a panicky way in a sign that belongs to Mercury. So manic, I could say that we may be coming into a panic market sell-off week ahead. That could be a simple interpretation of that as well. All right. So, know your stock portfolio well. Maybe be careful, right? Be cautious around risky investments, but a broad market sell-off will impact everybody. Kamala Harris has her rising sign ascendant at 20 and her north node at 24 degrees of Gemini. This is close enough to be about her, right? Something about her is activated. Donald Trump has his sun at 22 degrees of Gemini. Something about Trump and his career or solar energy, his vitality, his life force, or his career, or his cardiovascular system is going to be in the news cycle, perhaps. And we may also, and why news cycle? Because of the sextile of Mercury to this part of the sky. Similarly with Kamala, but we do want to remember the pandemonium, pan energy is there as well. So again, these are difficult placements in the sky for Trump and for Harris in this week ahead. All right, let's do each person's sign. Reminder, the United States of America is a Sag rising, right? Right here, Sag rising. 12 degrees. This is happening in the house of open enemies, adversaries, and opponents to the United States of America. Panic, pandemonium. And this, therefore, here, this part of the sky for the United States of America's natal chart makes this, because don't forget 1, 2, 3, 4, this makes this the 10th house. So Venus, female, leader, 10th house, America, fall, and Orcus, the god of the punisher of broken oaths. Don't know which female leader in the United States or public figure may have broken, but if there was a broken oath, it'll come to the public light, perhaps in the news cycle. The news cycle is all connected to the news about kings and queens and leaders, and it's connected to things that happened since July 15th, because Mercury is retrograding through his shadow territory. Kings and queens and leaders in the world, worldwide, news stories about them from things that occurred since July the 15th. That's a big deal in this week ahead. All right, let's go ahead and do your sign. I didn't want to make this one of those videos that was going to be too much world events, because I've done a lot of that content lately. And now we're moving into how you can use this Mars synodic cycle with Venus, the goddess of love and beauty and kindness and peace, and Mars, aggression, conflict. Mars separates things. Venus puts them together. All right. So when they came together in Aquarius, back on February 22nd at 6 degrees of Aquarius, are we having the first testing of a longer cycle that closes out January 8th of 2026 in the collective Aquarius sky and in our individual whole sign house Aquarius sky in our natal chart. If you do not know how to cast your chart in whole sign houses, go below to my description box, click the more button, and then scroll down. My free how to cast your chart in whole sign houses and why tutorial video is downloadable and accessible from my description box, and my deep dive meanings of the 12 houses PDF is also there, and you can get those for free from me, as well as my free Amazing Asteroids course. So I give a lot of things away, especially when it's teaching, because the price of knowledge should not be high. The price of learning should be affordable for everybody. And here we have it. Okay, we're not starting with you guys, you Cancers, unfortunately. We're starting with Aries, and the reason is Aries, you go first every time. All right, so let's talk about this week, and we're going to start off with this week ahead. It's basically gnarly as all hell. So we have the Cazimi still finishing up on Monday, everybody, but you're kind of spinning off of the Monday, Sunday, Mercury in the heart of the sun energetic, and I did a webinar on that. I can perhaps put the webinar replay in the description box if I remember. Now, August the 20th, this is now Tuesday, and I'm not going to go through it like bit by bit for every sign. What I'd rather be doing, what I'd much rather be doing is this. We're going to hone in just visually for each sign. We're going to visually hone in on one bit of sky. Let me get us right to where I want to be. Now I'm on Wednesday, and I've got Venus at 19. Okay, we want to go ahead a day. Once I get it to the perfect sky, Venus at 21. Yep. Mars at 21. Yep. And I've got Mercury at 24. And the day that he's actually sextiling more exactly Mars, is going to be more like on the 22nd. Okay, well, this is the 22nd. Let me move it forward and see when it perfects. It perfects on August the 24th, which is Saturday. Okay, so Mercury is perfecting August the 24th. Okay, that's Saturday. That's the exact perfection of Mars sextiling Mercury. I'm writing it down, so when I'm talking to you guys, I got it right. Okay. But we also have the Venus sextile most exact on the 22nd. So we're going to go through that together. And we're going to cue back to Aries. And we're going to give you the best way to understand this. It's really not just about this week ahead. I actually heard Rick Levine finally say something recently. I just happened to tune into Rick Levine talking with the astrologer Amanda Pua Walsh, and he said, well, sometimes we don't say this in astrology, but we should. It's not just about something happening on the day. There's cycles within cycles. And I'm like, yeah, hallelujah, Rick. Bumped into Rick twice in an elevator at NCGR in Baltimore in September. And it was really kind of funny because I've always said, well, Rick Levine and I go back to astro.com years ago where we both had product there. And it was so weird to meet him again after the late 90s. So look, the bottom line here is that astrology is synodic cycles. Astrology is not just one-off events in the sky. It's not isolated weather patterns, but rather longer cyclical patterns of weather that embed within each other, cycles within cycles within cycles. All right. And now we're moving ourselves back to Aries. Aries, sun, moon, and rising. Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. Wow. So let's just get the sky simplified this week. Why don't we do that? Well, reminding you that it is the beginning cycle back in February of 24, right? I talked about February 22nd, 2024, where Venus joined together with the planet Mars in the Aquarius part of your sky right up here. Now, you had this also, remember, in March of 2022. Ultimately, this is giving favor to all Aries, sun, moon, and rising for very profound, balanced results between what needs to be taken away and added, but also when the god of love and the god of money joins with Mars, ambitious, passionate, dynamic energy around love and money, but particularly money, because 11th house energies is great gains from one's career financially. The money you get from the 10th house is received in the 11th. Since 2022, I have made more money in my astrology career than I've ever made even in any other endeavor, including journalism in my life. So a lot of us Aries are starting to see the fruits of this Mars and Venus cycle that keeps repeating in that 11th house. It reset a button there, February of 2024, and now it's our testing proof of concept window, a window that we haven't had a testing proof of concept vibe from since September of 2022. Now, here's a thought. Can anyone here remember what they were doing in December of 1997 through to August of 98? If you could go back there, that was the last synodic conjunction in Aquarius, and it only lasted a short time, actually. But if you can remember December of 97 to August of 98, you may get some clues about how this could play out for you as well, because this opening square is a part of a cycle that you experienced back then as well. So I will just use me as an Aries example, if you don't mind, but I was on a BBC documentary. I was on an NBC affiliate show. I got a ton, December of 97 to August of 98, publicity. Celebrity and publicity are 11th house energies as well in my career as a psychic reader. So you will find, and a remote viewer, you will find there are similar escalations going on here. Yes, between March of 22 to February 24, but yet again, February 24 to January of 26. So this is kind of a testing window for your financial success from your career, your ascendancy of celebrity and public reputation, especially celebrity. 11th house is celebrity. And so how is this second wave testing you in this week around this time of the 21st, Wednesday, the 22nd, Thursday, Friday, the 23rd? You're testing again. Can you prove yourself to be true? Proof of concept. With Mars in your third house of social media, online world, writing, teaching, and blogging, and with Venus in your house of work and health matters. It is a real gritty sky, and a lot of Aries may feel they're fallen Venus in the house of work, going into the underworld with the Etruscan god is stressful. It can feel to you like you're coming up against some grit. You have to push through like the shoot that must come from below the surface and not quit. That's the nature of an opening square. It is possible with Orcus, the goddess of wealth, and Venus in the sixth house, you may be experiencing a lot of work that leads to a lot of wealth. There's always a cost, but that may be what happens in this week ahead. Mercury is speaking from retrogradation about events that have transpired in your life since July the 15th. And he is talking to Mars in this week ahead, particularly closer to Saturday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Mercury says, I've got some information, some news, some phone calls, some text messages for you connected to your entrepreneurial business, your creative projects, right? That can be an agent, for instance, your money from your entrepreneurial endeavors, or one of your children. I would not begin a love story under this, but Mercury retrograde in the fifth could be emails and phone calls from former lovers getting into the mix Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I wouldn't be surprised, but those phone calls, texts, and emails from former lovers are connected to the third house. And that could be like, oh, ring-a-ding-ding, I'm going to be traveling through your town this week. I'd love to see you for coffee. That kind of thing from a former lover. In fact, I turned about my ex-husband traveling and I said, you could stay on my sofa. So I thought I'd better check and see if he's going to be back to Vancouver for some reason. And maybe that's exactly what this week looks like. I'll let you guys know. I'm an Aries sun, all right, and moon. Also, I'd say to you guys, look at the idea here with Mercury, the messenger, the news guy in the fifth house retrograde, old projects creatively, old artistic endeavors, old entrepreneurial projects that maybe you haven't been paying attention to, especially since July 15, things that you might have tried to get off the ground are now going to be revived or maybe potentially reactivated, because Mars is that action god, right? And decisions. And you might get down to a writing project, or finally getting something done online that you meant to do, or finally enrolling for a course that you want to take, or setting up the structures to teach a course, all of that kind of stuff in this week ahead. I don't think of Apophis individually. It's more like it could destroy the earth, the asteroid. So we won't be addressing Apophis in each of our lives, okay? Because we're not about to individually destroy the earth. So I'm not too concerned with that. Hopefully that's a nice delineation for you guys. And Mars is your ruler, of course, as an Aries rising, sun or moon. And so when Mars is here taking orders from Mercury, it looks like you could have some commercial success through bold and definitive action. And when Pan isn't acting like pandemonium and panic, he can also put you in a state of ecstatic revelry where you dive into some kind of creative project and focus in a hyper-focused way, especially if it involves creative projects and the online world. And that intensity will be really obvious to you as you approach Friday through Sunday. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign. I kind of like this guy here. Venus is your lord, though, and she happens to be fallen. And so a fallen Venus, of course, happens to happen every year for you as she travels through the sign of romantic love, sexual love, children, fertility, pregnancy, creative projects, and entrepreneurial business endeavors, and just having fun. So she's kind of like tight here. Like she's like, we're not having fun. I'm being a priestess. I'm not drinking. I'm not smoking. I'm not dancing at night. I'm not playing poker. She's very Baptist here. And so, as she transits through here on the yearly, a lot of you Tauruses get less over the top with your pleasures, right? But the point about this week is this: she's coming into her opening square from the conjunction of Venus and Mars at the top of your sky in February of 2024, but you also experienced it in February of 2022, actually March of 2022. So this cycle is going to give you a 4-year run, right? A 4-year run you haven't seen since 1997, December to 1998, August. And that's a run for your money of some kind of prosperity through bold, passionate actions and decisions, some kind of escalation of good events through your decisive, separating nature, Mars, and your prosperity, likability, and peace-loving Venus. So those two energies are kind of inciting a positive direction in career matters. And you may go back perhaps to March of 22 to February of 24 in general and go, wow, I got some really great jobs during that period. I made the right decisions, Mars. I took the bold actions needed, Mars. I quit jobs that weren't good for me, Mars. So that energy has been in play. And now it's going to get again activated here, February of 24 to January of 2026. But this is the opening testing time of Mars and Venus in this opening square. And so therefore the testing is very much about the money you possess. And you might be spending more than you want here. You know, sometimes Mars gets very spendy. The only good thing about Mars here is he's a self-starter in your second house, and it would be ideal for starting your own business or getting going on an existing business with greater intensity and focus, pan. But you may be also wondering where the money's going. So you may be spending a lot of money and a little bit worried about it this week ahead. And Venus is testing everything from the fifth house of pleasures. So overspending on pleasurable activities, or overspending on romantic activities, or overspending on your children and what they need from you. This could be a feeling that some of you Tauruses are having, like all the money's going out. Where is it going to come back in? With this energy in a square, it's not easy when it comes to money. There's no doubt about it, or spending or financial resources, but it's testing your mettle, because the way you're going to do mettle, the way mettle, the way you're going to do well and better through your career, through Venus and Mars, is by finding that balance between what you need to add and take away. And what you need to do is find what you do in your career, something you enjoy, right? That's the key for you guys. And if you don't enjoy it, you won't be doing it. That's what Venus and Mars want you to know. Well, that's what Venus wants you to know. Mars is helping pare away all that is not enjoyable. Now, look, for some of you, this could be a week of verbal conflict with a child. Really, just the house of speech squared away with Venus, and you're going to find something, especially midweek, of course, you know, Wednesday through Saturday. You're just having a really hard conversation, a really bold conversation with a child or with a romantic lover. And if you do, that kind of discussion takes you into Orcus territory. It goes into the underworld, right? So you're talking about things that are hidden from view, some of the darker topics to do with love, romance, obsession, sexuality, control, maybe, because Plutonian energy is with Orcus. Or the punisher of broken oaths. Now, did you break an oath with a child break an oath with you, an agreement? Did a lover break an oath with you? Did you break an oath with a lover? These agreements and breakage of oaths are very much on the table for bold and heated discussion or argument this week ahead. Then again, it really feels intense Wednesday through Saturday for that energy. As Saturday approaches, Friday, say through Sunday, you really get Mercury with the news information guy in the mix. If you go back to July the 15th and things that you were doing in the Leo sky, July 15th, right, onward, there are things from the past that are returning here. And it can do with conversations with childhood friends, with mom or dad, family of origin matters being readdressed. Sometimes the fourth house is subtle. It really is very much a dark midnight hour, and it's about things you're doing in your home and from your home. But there's a possibility of some translations here. One, are you thinking of renegotiating a contract to do with your home, a lease, for example, or a mortgage, because you're backwards, or making a new offer or redoing an offer on a home to buy or sell? That kind of thing is obvious. And Mars is the money, the drive and passion, but also the spending you need to do in order to make that deal happen. Venus just happens to be the ruler, by the way, of your house of rentals and pets. So rentals and pets and negotiations and deals, but they're difficult and challenging, maybe in the mix this week ahead. I keep telling people, but reminding you, if you start a new relationship dating during this sky, it's going to always have a baked in square of Mars and Venus. It would not be the best sky to begin a new love story if you can avoid actively choosing to date, okay? Mercury retrograde in the fourth house of legacy wealth. Is there money, especially from solar figures, father figures, that may come to you from the past? For some Tauruses, this could show up as money from the past coming to you, money that was owed to you from a family member, that kind of thing. That's a possibility as well. But we shall see. It's complicated, but Venus is the ruler of the house of debts, and debts from the past from family of origin figures may be showing up as money coming into your life that helps you curtail the overspending that may be occurring here. And lastly, Mars says cut away foods that you put in your mouth or things you sniff through your nose, right? That aren't good for you. And this is often a food elimination diet transit when we see Mars in the second house, squaring Venus, the goddess of pleasure, who can take you to the underworld. So a few of you Tauruses are looking at this idea that maybe, I remember seeing a meme, my mother didn't tell me wine was going to be my worst relationship, the boyfriend from hell or something. But it is kind of the vibe here that some of you may find that something that you've been eating or ingesting or pleasurable substances that escape reality may be coming to a critical juncture here, a critical turning point as well. But everything goes back to that 10th house of career and reputation. So if you're curtailing any kind of substance abuse issues this week ahead or getting a handle on it, it's because it's disastrous to your reputation and perhaps ultimately your career success. Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign. It is a sky that is going to simplify this week just for today. That is about that synodic cycle of Venus and Mars co-joining in the sign of Aquarius, which happened in March of 2022, and again in February of 2024. And that closes out in January of 2026, and you won't see this again until 2054. Use it or lose it. New cycles of passion, purpose, drive, and ambition, Mars and Venus, prosperity, goodness, and positive things in book publishing, higher education, campuses and colleges, winning in court cases, traveling abroad, being in touch with the meaning of one's life, finding one's spiritual path in the house of God. This is a positive story, and you're trying your best, and it does train you to get a handle on it. So how is this now coming into a testing point from the February conjunction? And this is the opening square. Well, first of all, Venus is in the fourth house and Mars is in the house of you. This square, which you're feeling Wednesday through Friday of Venus and Mars, is simply saying, Venus is saying, wealth in and from your home, Etruscan god of Orcus is there, the wealth, or broken oaths in and from your home, punished and punishable broken oaths that you take in and from your home. But it's also family oaths. You see, often we make these unconscious family of origin vows, or in this case, around love and money. Like imagine your parents were married forever and the vow is, I shall never get a divorce. It's wrong. It's against the ways of God. Or you had some kind of weird vow you took as a child that, money is the root of all evil. So being rich will make you as rotten as your parents who were wealthy and slanderous or something. So ways we take vows from our childhood without even knowing it. We're not going to do it like our parents did, or we're going to do it like our parents did. I hereby swear on the Bible. Well, you can let go of those because this is a square to Mars, the god of cutting. And at a psychological, spiritual level, I think a lot of Aries, sun, moon, and rising, especially rising, sun secondarily, are ready to snip some ancestral vows and some family of origin childhood lessons that don't work for you anymore around love and money stories, Venus. It is a wealth position. I mean, Venus is in what we call a house of legacy wealth. And there is a wealth god there with Venus. So ostensibly, you may come into some family money this week ahead. However, it comes at a very intense energy with a square from Venus in the house of you. Now you have to fight for that money. You have to be bold. You have to be aggressive in order to get it. Those are thoughts I have about it. It's possible. And, I don't know about pandemic here. You're not a pandemic, but you might be in a panicked feeling about how you have to fight for something that's yours in the fourth house or with someone in your home, right? Fourth house is your domicile, where you live, who you live with. And you may be having sort of a real aggressive stance around money and love issues with someone with whom you cohabitate. Because Mercury's in the mix, especially more Friday through Sunday, moving into a sextile to Mars in his home kingdom, right? It belongs to Gemini belongs to Mercury retrograde. When Mercury retrogrades here, go back to July 15th and add a couple weeks. What was going on in your life? Because this is the territory he's covered before. And so you might find yourself going through old stories to do with the last week of July, 2 weeks of July, come back again to be revised, or to do with travel. Were you traveling then? I was. I'm a progressed Gemini sun. Travel, short distances, sibling matters, especially younger, third house. So emails, phone calls from younger siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews, and travel opportunities, returning from your past. Lots of times with a Mercury retrograde in a travel house, it just means you're going to travel to a place you've traveled before. He's retrograding to the end of August. So you could, then 28th or so. So you could definitely be looking at news stories emerging, phone calls, text messages, emails, conversations that open up travel opportunities to places you've been before and maybe already been in July. Now, there is this energy of Mercury sextiles, right? Sextiles Mars, and they're moving toward each other. So this is like coming together of actions, decisions, and decisions you want to take involving writing projects, Mercury, travel, online social media, teaching and learning environments, and connections to siblings. Those stories really hit you in a very acute way Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with the sextile energy between Mercury retrograde and, of course, Mars. And Mercury retrograde means, friends from your childhood coming back into the present, phone calls, emails, and that kind of stuff, right? Or hearing from a sibling by phone call, text, and email, particularly the one younger than you. And the news could be very intense, maybe, because we do see the asteroid Apophis here, but nonetheless, it is a flowing relationship to you. So it's not that worrisome at all. Remember, you are in this synodic cycle where you're trying to increase success in the 9th house. So if you don't want to have success in international visas, travel, passports, higher education, publications, alignment with your purpose, fine. But if you do want to have success, you got to get through this gritty tension here. And I think a lot of you may be looking with the underworld god at breaking old family patterns so you can be more successful and aligned with your purpose in this week ahead. Now, get ready for Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. If you're in the live premiere and you haven't hit that like button, please do. I was so delighted to see over 1,000 people, almost 1,100 people in the live premiere on my Sunday video. That was really, really cool. Finally, the YouTube algorithm is loving me up. But I'm going to take a chocolate break and I'll be right back. All right, Cancer, we're getting to you right now. And here we are. So in your sky, you're going to see that the synodic cycle of Venus and Mars, as I mentioned, happened in March of 22, February 2024. Last seen in December of 1997, next seen in 2054. So you're going to see over the next couple of years, right, until January of 2026, something's trying to happen in your 8th house of chunky money. You may be really looking in these 2 years ahead at how to make changes that you need to make and decisions you may need to take, Mars, regarding money that you share with another person. Now, the other side of a Venus-Mars conjunction repeating here is secret love affairs. You or your partner, either one, having secret love affairs. I'm not trying to make that happen for you. I'm not trying to worry you, but that's the archetypal energy. Did you or your partner have secret love affairs if you were partnered up back in December of 97 to August of 98? And here we go again. So hidden or secret love affairs are here, needing to make decisions about separating assets with a spouse or a significant other or business partnership person, and maybe making money in the stock market through investments and shares in companies or other kinds of non-income source monies. Inheritance is included. All right. Did you get an inheritance, by the way, December of 97, to August of 98? My sister is a Cancer rising. My dad passed away, and she was entitled to an inheritance at that time. So this stuff works. So themes of inheritances, themes of assets divided or shared with another, themes of secret love affairs. These are stories that Venus and Mars keep reactivating in your chart. What happened March of 2022 to March of February 2024 in this part of your sky? It's back again, February of 24 to January of 2026. And this opening square is your testing time. It's testing in a way you've already been tested for the opening square from the 2022 conjunction, which the first opening square tested you in September of 2022. So you're being tested here. And you're being tested in this opening square to persevere and push through something. But what is it? Because what you want to do is see success here. You want to have chunky money happen for you in a good way. You want to have things occur regarding shared financial resources with others that are beneficial. And and it could be royalty income from books as well, that kind of thing. But as the sky is indicating, the tension this week is here, especially Wednesday through to Friday, as Mars and Venus square off. You're looking at the sky on Thursday right now. Venus is a goddess of money and love, with Orcus, the god of the underworld, Truscan god of wealth, but broken oaths. Now, third house people are your siblings. Third house people are your aunts, uncles, cousins, and neighbors. Third house people are maybe childhood friends. So these people may be highlighted this week in relationship to challenges and challenge points connected to 12th house stories. 12th house stories are hard to pin down. It can be something to do with a sibling and foreign travel. It could be revenue generated from foreign countries, 12th house, and online world projects. But you've got to push through attention with decisions or actions that are necessary, Mars. And sometimes it's also not what you add with Mars, but what you take away. In the 12th house, you may be taking away, sabotaging, self-undoing addictions and habits and patterns. This could look like, I'm not going to the local bar anymore every night after work. I'm going to quit gambling at the local casino every day. These are the things that can go by the wayside for any cancers in dealing with this kind of thing. The other energy of the Virgo third house is writing, and Venus is a goddess of the arts, and Orcus is wealth. So wealth through online and social media, blogs, and writing projects can happen here, but you're pushing through some intensity from backroom deals and negotiations, from international borderless revenue sources, etc. I think with the Mercury retrograde, I want you to go back and think about July 15th. At a couple of weeks, Mercury was in direct motion through the sign of Leo. What was happening in that time of your life? Because now Mercury retrograde is trying to pull things back from the past, and it's pulling back money from your past. You know, there may be sources of income or revenue or money from the last 2 weeks of July that are returning to you or need to be renegotiated or renewed or reinvestigated. And with Mercury's sextile relationship to Mars in his kingdom, it also is money from far foreign shores and foreign places. And so it just doesn't have to be like a revision, like money, you know, you got the money and returning the money. Sometimes it looks like that, but it can also be opportunities from people connected to foreign shores and money opportunities from the past returning to you, or showing up, emails, phone calls, text messages. You possess things in your second house. And so you may be renegotiating a possession, and this will be Friday through Sunday. It may connect to something connected to travel to foreign countries or people in foreign places, as 12th house stories, or renegotiating a career opportunity. I mean, the moon will be this week up in your 10th house, negotiating a new career opportunity that can bring you greater rewards. So renegotiating, like reassessing the contract, reassessing the terms of the contract, etc. And lastly, when there's an Orcus underworld god anywhere, especially with Venus, and it's a punisher of broken oaths, and it's so intense, there could be intensity regarding a sibling and or a cousin, niece, nephew, neighbor, and feeling like they ditched out on something, like they broke their agreements with you on something that was really important to you, particularly younger sibling. This is the one under you. So there may be that kind of tension going on this week as well. And yet with Mars in the 12th house, I think it stays under the radar. Like if you're angry inside yourself, because Mars is angry. You're not like expressing it outward. You're seething inwardly, and you're angry at somebody else, right? The neighbor next door. And that's not a big deal. Of course it isn't. But, this is an intense week, and it's connected to a lot of other stuff in the sky. So just be cautious for, passive aggressive, covert anger at some other person in the third house narratives. Again, neighbors, siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, childhood friends, etc. Okay, we're moving into Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign. Leo, you guys have to go back to what happened in 1997 December through to August of 98, because that was that conjunction cycle of Mars and Uranus, Mars and Venus back here over here in your seventh house. And that would have been about a reset button regarding love and long-term committed relationship of some sort, but also a connection around how to forge that relationship in a powerful way together with somebody else. Could also be in the beginning of a very important business alliance or contract or relationship as well. And so if you can go back there, you can remember events that happened. Mars would like to separate you and another person. Venus wants to bring you together. Was there a lot of intensity then? Hang on a sec. I'm stopping the share just because I want to double check something. Make sure that that is the right math on something. It just seemed weird to me, but it is right. So back to you. It is December 22nd, 1997 to August 4th, 1998. It was just a fast cycle back then when you had the energy of this in your seventh house. So, if you had a relationship on the go back then, was it intense? Did you start with a new one? And that was that window. And so we're back again. As I mentioned, the dates already, March of 2022 through to February of 24. And then now 2024, this February, these conjunction cycles of Mars and Venus happened again in your seventh house, and it will close out in January of 2026. So in essence, you're being tested and you're being reinvented in a way you won't see since 2054 in your marriage and relationship and business partnership house, right? That's the key essence of this. And so you're getting this testing window. If you're in a relationship that's not right for you and you got this opening square, it won't last. That's basically what I'm trying to tell you. And if there's going to be tension, it's going to be money tension. It happens to be that Venus is in her fall in a financial house with Orcus, the god of the underworld. And while that can be a wealth symbol for sure, the god of riches with Venus in a money house, we do have a square from Mars in the 11th house of friends, allies, benefactors, and career gains, as well as matters to do, perhaps, with an elder sibling. You may just simply come into tension this week regarding financial matters and an elder sibling or a friend, but everything tests you back here in the seventh house. Now, seventh house is audience, marketplace, and clients, 10th house from your 10th, and it may indeed be about those people. But if it's about your marriage and long-term relationship, we're seeing some kind of slippage or intensity for many Leos. It looks like discord with friends and money stories and a long-term love relationship may occur. Again, the long game is to find some successful balance between love and hate in the house of marriage, right? How do you find balance between love and hate in the house of marriage? That's what you're looking for, Leos. Mercury will be retrograding over territory he's covered since July the 15th. And especially the last 2 weeks of July, what were you doing in your life? Because as Mercury retrogrades this week and we approach, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you start to feel you are changing your mind about things you said yes to, perhaps, in those last 2 weeks of July. And whatever you were saying yes to, it may involve financial matters because of Venus in this part of the sky, and Mercury came from that part of the sky. You may have made financial arrangements with people in the last couple of weeks of July that you no longer want to hold true. You may be coming into a time where you want to break away from a business agreement or partnership, and you're coming to the point of wanting to speak into it, that I no longer want to do this job or this partnership. Now, verbal vows of agreement may be broken, perhaps, by you as Mercury retrogrades and you change your mind about something. And again, it connects to the way you make money in your career, a friend, a benefactor, a social group you belong to, or a sibling. And that's where this kind of difficult, intense, maybe conversation is happening in this week ahead. And with that retrograde Mercury, it's just you changing your mind. It's just you rethinking something. It's you rethinking something so that you can go forward after the 28th of August in a new way with Mercury now direct, and you know your mind and you know what you want and you're going forward. I always talk about Donald Trump when I get to this part of the sky. This is his ascendant, in Leo. And what will he change his mind about? Is it J.D. Vance? What else? But he's also in this very difficult square as well. If you think about Donald Trump being a Leo rising, and you think about what he's been going through here since 2022 March, it's all about significant others that he has to intersect with. So how are you dealing with it? How is he dealing with it? And what did he do? He picked his running mate after July 15th, 2024. And so perhaps, or announces running mate, he'll change his mind. Did you make any kind of announcements or proclamations or agreements with Mercury in the house of you in the last 2 weeks of July that you're changing your mind about? And you'll feel the need to change your mind is spoken into new words, new agreements, anytime perhaps. I'd say Wednesday, Thursday through to Sunday, right? The whole thing is playing out. You're ruled by the sun, Leo, and the sun is going to be this week hitting that Regulus little king, big energy for you, especially around Thursday. And so you're really Thursday and Friday kind of sitting on that throne, sitting on the power throne of your reality under the beams of a sun in the sign of you, and the ruler of your sign is at home in your sign. And yet you also have to do some kind of recanting, renouncing, or rethinking of something important, especially Wednesday through to Sunday. Sorry, I had to get my gum out of my mouth. you, you've been doing this gig a little bit too long. You're like chewing your gum on your channel. Mercury, sun, moon, and rising sign. A Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign. So first of all, you are dealing with a Venus transit, which is good. No matter what her condition here, she's giving you more congeniality, attractiveness, likability, charm offensive. People want to be around you. You feel good to others, and you may like yourself a bit more. That's excellent. And you may be getting in touch with curtailing pleasures, as Venus can do in Virgo, and be more practical about your spending and other things like that. Anyway, Venus here this week ahead is continuing a story about the synodic cycle of the Mars-Venus conjunction that you had in December of 97 that completed by August of 98 in the sign of Aquarius, your sixth house of health matters, of matters connected to pets and rental agreements, matters connected to debts, matters connected to job and work. Now it's back again. If you go to March 6th of 2022 and you add 2 years until February of 24, that 2-year cycle activated that sixth house for you. And you may have been able to separate, end, and cut away from jobs that no longer brought you Venus pleasure and joy. Or you may have pursued ambitiously with great power and action and decisions, jobs that brought you great pleasure and joy. So I have a Virgo rising daughter. She did exactly that. Okay. She quit one gym job that was sucked ass and got a way better one. So you were doing all of that then. You did it back in 97, 98, and you're doing it again, February 22nd of 2024, and you finish that reset here in January 2026. How can you bring the love-hate together in the house of work and health? In other words, you can go to the gym every day, but if you hate it, don't do it. You can drink wine, it brings you pleasure, but it's making you unhealthy, so you'll stop. You can get a job that you thought you wanted, but you despise the people around you and you want to quit the job, so you do it. These are things that happen in that sixth house. Pets are here, and sometimes you're propelled to buy a pet, get a new pet, quit a pet quits you. These are stories that happen when Venus and Mars come together in the sixth house. So these stories are playing out from you from February 2024 all the way through 2026. And the opening square is testing you here. And the test is Venus and Virgo in the sign of you with Orcus, the god of the underworld, riches, but punisher of broken oaths. And you would be the punisher because you and Venus are together, and you may punish a broken oath if you need to. But the energy of the tension is in the 10th house of career. Is there something about your career and your reputation as you've been ambitiously pursuing greater success up there? Don't forget, we do have Jupiter up there right beside Mars. I'm trying to simplify the story. And yet you have this critical tension moment between you being in balance with what you want as somebody who wants to choose what she truly desires, and tension regarding situations in career and work matters. Mars, Jupiter up there, Jupiter is there, but we're really focused on the Mars story. Mars is like, we need to end, cut, and release something in the 10th house, right? That's basically it, in order to feel better about what it is we desire in life. So that could look like you standing your ground about something going on in a work environment or career environment and really stating what you need and want, or really making yourself known here about what your bottom line is, your boundaries are, especially if you're being boundary ingressed by a strong Mars Jupiter. That would be a very bossy boss or a very commanding force in a work environment. You're not a worker, you're a student, you're retired. Well, then things you're doing in the visible world, creating a critical juncture for some tension in the sky. Like you might want to quit something you're doing and everyone notices you doing it. Oh, I'm retired and I'm like the queen of the soup kitchen, or I'm on 7 boards of trustee funds or something. You might want to quit something. Or I'm retired and I just sit around golfing all day. You want to quit your golfing club or something. You know what I mean? Mercury is retrograding, and he's retrograding and forming a sextile this week to Mars. And so Mercury will have you go back over some old energy field here, like Thursday through Sunday, of things you were doing in the last 2 weeks of July when he was in Leo direct. And something about that is like, what were you doing behind the scenes, home alone, maybe about addiction, self-undoing, maybe backroom deals and negotiations were ongoing the last 2 weeks of July about work and career situations. And now there's some reassessment, renegotiation going on, again, behind the scenes about your work situation. But if it's about Mercury in the 12th house, it's also a time maybe where some decisions you were making inwardly, they're not sharing with the public world, some ideas you had, and they were kind of low key, hidden from the world, right? It's really that liminal space between the worlds in that 12th house in some ways. You're maybe rethinking them. People from foreign places and foreign lands may email, phone call, and text you, but they're connected to career things, right? Career matters. So you may be in touch with those people in some way that in the last 2 weeks of July, you may have also been in touch with. And Mercury and Mars can be about some commercial success through your actions and prosperity through your actions. And so it's things you're devising at home alone that you're thinking about that can really propel you to greater career success. So don't discount your downtime alone in solitude, because you might be coming up with some really great new ideas for how you wish to propel your career success forward, upward and onward, higher and better. Righty. All right, Libra, sun, moon, and rising, who someone told me I don't give you guys enough time compared to other signs. I'm really surprised, but I'll be attentive to that. Venus is, okay, let's go back. Venus is your Lord, your planetary ruler. She basically co-joins with Mars, and she does it on a weird, erratic cycle in December of 1997 through to August of 1998. That cycle was activated in your 5th house of pregnancy, children, romantic love, sexuality, fun, play, pleasure, and joy, natural skills and talents, and things to do with your entrepreneurial and creative artistic projects. So what were you doing back then? Because you had like a love-hate vibe, but also an action with pleasure. Venus and Mars are mixing it up. Oil and water are creating something there. And it's back again, right? But it's back again in a couple of long way cycles. March of 22 to February 24, and February 24 to January 26. Those 2 cycles reset themselves here. It's really good for artists. If you're an artist or creative, it's good for writing a book, doing a painting, creating a new song. It's kind of a really good energy for all of the artists out there who happen to be Libra, sun, moon, or rising. It's good for sexual, romantic love stories, of course, because this is a sex and love and romance house. And so some of you may have had really hot love stories emerging during that time, but love-hate is Mars and Venus together in a romance house. And so you've gone through a lot of love-hate stories as well. March of 2022 to February 24. Now you got another cycle ahead of you as well. It could also be about your children. And so you may have gone through some real important resets with those children that you have during that cycle, including birthing and pregnancy of children. So that's another story that could have been going on for you. Now, this is the opening test of concept. Oh, and money luck. You can win money in the 5th house. Venus is good for that. And Mars is like, you got to take the action to buy the lottery ticket. It reminds me of that old, I prayed every day to win the lottery, and you get to heaven and get mad at St. Peter or God at the gate. And St. Peter or God says, yeah, I wanted you to win, but you never bought the ticket. I can only do so much, So Mars is the action taken. You need to take action to be lucky. This is the house of good fortune. It's taking action and making decisions that fortify you being fortunate. You won't win money if you don't play. You don't win money if you just sit home alone. You don't find romance if you don't ever go out anywhere. Your creative projects don't get done if you don't decide to do them and take the action to do them. So you're fortifying these strengths here in the next 2 years in your 5th house. Now, This time around, by the way, it's a very different ball game because of Pluto co-presence. I didn't even cover that, allowing for a whole level of power in the Aquarius part of your sky. Energetically, I would say to you, the vibe here is this time around testing you around the matters of your bedroom pleasures. That's Venus, bed pleasures in the 12th house, but also what you do in your solitude that brings you pleasure, including the pleasure of solitude. There's something about this that says, I am deeply okay being alone. I'm finding pleasure in my aloneness. I especially like to dive deep into the underworld when I'm alone. That's one way of Venus portending something good here by being in a house of solitude and isolation, your 12th house. But she's also with a god of the wealth matters, the Etruscan god of wealth. And you can get money from the 12th house. That's international borderless income and revenue, and working for foreign companies, foreign shores, or just getting money through international payment processing systems. That is a story that wants to emerge as a testing window this week ahead. We can see the square to Mars in the house of travel. And so there's opportunities that are pivoting you towards financial gain through travel, foreign lands, foreign shores, and foreign entities and international companies. Book publishing is up here and doing things creatively behind the scenes to succeed in publications and book publishing, but it's stressful. It's a square. You have to go for it. You have to push through. You have to not give up. Your pleasure and your must-dos are at odds with each other. You might find yourself as well with Mercury in a retrogradation, having to consider what you were doing in the last 2 weeks of July, because retrograde Mercury is addressing those matters in a contextual relationship to Mars decisions and actions. What were you doing around foreign travel, foreign lands, foreign shores, publications, higher learning environments, spiritual beliefs and philosophies, sometimes father figures? What were you doing in those matters the last 2 weeks of July? Because then you're going to reassess that, because Mercury's recessing, revising, rethinking something. It's in connection as well to friends, allies, and benefactors, or elder sibling. It's also in connection to the way you gain the money from your 10th house of career. Some of you may be going back over some old ground. What were you doing with friends, allies, benefactors, and what were you doing with your career gains in particular the last 2 weeks of July? Because you're going to make some changes. Honestly, for some of you with Mars up here, it's obvious he loves to travel. Jupiter's up there, patron of a protector. Some of you might be looking at travel opportunities to far or foreign shores that could bring you great wealth or great pleasure emerging this week. And the tension in the sky is this: maybe it's a hard thing to say yes. Maybe it's a decision that looks difficult. And if you need to win in legal matters, of course, Mars is the house of courts, and the Etruscan god of wealth with Venus can indicate backroom deals and negotiations and legal matters bring great wealth. That probably means getting out of the court and into mediation and settlements. And lastly, you're going to hear from friends from your past. You can't help it. Mercury's retrograde in clubs, societies, groups of belonging, colleagues, co-workers, and friends from your past. Phone calls, emails, and text messages. You guys are back in touch in this week ahead. That's very active with the Mercury retrograde all week long, but especially connected to far off foreign shores and travel Thursday through Sunday. Doesn't mean you take the trip. You could book the trip. All right. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. It is a story that began, as I mentioned, to every sign, December of 97 to August of 98. We had a conjunction of Venus in the sign of Aquarius with, of course, Mars. And that was a reset to do with legacy wealth, family of origin, home, property, land, real estate, things you do alone in your domestic private life. So some of you might not be old enough to relate to that, but if you can, there was big changes in 1997 in your life through to 1998 in relevant to that area of reality. For example, my Scorpio rising sun, what was he doing? He was so young. Nope, I don't know, because he was too young to do any of that. But that maybe he got some inheritance from a grandparent back then. But inheritance monies can come off of the 4th house as well, Scorpios. Well, it's kind of funny. He did get some inheritance money from my dad, but it didn't come for a few years later, but it all tumbled off my dad passing away in that time frame. So for my young kid, it did actually work out that way. Now, as we move forward to March the 6th, 2022, right? And then again, February 22nd, 2024. And these conjunctions have happened and will happen or are happening in Aquarius. So there's all kinds of things going on here that you're trying to reset wealth, Venus, right? Wealth and Mars, actions, decisions, and change regarding property, home, land, and real estate in that fourth house. And that cycle is asking you to do financial gain, joy, pleasure, action, decisions, and change at home. Sometimes just Mars, Venus here could be reconstructing your home, revising your home, renovating your home, redecorating your home, hammering your home, and yet again, changing your home for prosperity. February of 24, then to January 2026, that's a story you're in. And this is a first testing window. And the testing window is here. Mars is in the house of inheritances, chunky money, with literally a square to Venus and the goddess of Orcus, the god of wealth. Venus in her fall, the god of wealth. So this can be some testing regarding a friend, an ally, a benefactor, an elder sibling, and money, and shared money, and resources, and inheritances. It can test you in the house, in the way you share money with your significant other, if you have one, just because Venus rules the marriage house. And there may be questions or difficulties this week ahead, let's say Wednesday through to Friday in particular, regarding what you guys do with money you share as it pertains to social events and groups of belonging and things you do with large groups of other people in a marriage. And you're just disagreements about how the money should be spent. Ultimately, the goal of this conjunction is to legacy wealth you up a little more, give you more strength around money, prosperity in the home, from the home, because of the home, including the buying and selling of a home. I think that this could propel some of you to consider buying or selling a home, particularly selling a home this week ahead. Mercury is retrograde in your career space. And therefore, opportunities from your career or decisions and actions from your career, well, decisions, ideas, and things about your career from the last 2 weeks of July are being rethunk, revised, and reinvestigated. Or you're just hearing from old colleagues and coworkers and bosses from your past. Now, if that's the case in a sextile to Mars, you're going to get some kind of money out of that revision. So a sign-on bonus, or a severance package, a commission, a performance bonus, or something like that. Or there's some secret deals and negotiations going on around changing your job. And this is something you're really looking at strongly going on in the sky this week, especially Thursday through to Sunday. With Pluto down here, by the way, I didn't add Pluto, but trust me, Pluto's in your fourth house. He's retrograding, but he's there during this week ahead. There's definitely a possibility that some of you could definitely look at some significant legacy wealth coming into your life from this synodic reset button here in this opening square, So over the next 4 or 5 months. And if you change your mind about a career or job situation this week, that's okay. But if your boss changes his mind, don't take it personally. If someone in authority pulls away and takes something back that you thought they were giving you, it's okay. It's all going to work out because the sextile to Mars looks good, right? And so this is going to be something that benefits you. And, even if Venus is in her fall, she's still with the wealth god in the earnings from your house. So earnings from your career. So ultimately, even a pullback of an opportunity or offer will still, in the long run, look good on your finances. All right, Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising, we're coming to the finish line. We're looking at the synodic cycle of Venus and Mars co-joining in the heavens every single Aquarian window of time. The last time they came together in Aquarius was December of 97 to 1998, August 1998. What were you doing in this third house of siblings, travel, trips, journeys, writing, online media, social media, learning, skills-based education, college, teaching? That was something that you were doing that was active, that was in your face back then. It's back again, but it started to return March the 6th with a conjunction in 2022, March of 22, of Venus at 0 degrees of Aquarius with Mars. And it's back again, February 22nd of 2024 as they co-joined here at 6 degrees of Aquarius. Now, really, this is some cycle that finishes January of 2026 that you won't see again until 2054. So take note. How can you, especially with Pluto moving into this part of your sky, really indicate a great deal of prosperity through things like writing, teaching, traveling, or learning? These are areas where your wealth can increase over the course of the next 2 years, but also fun and enjoyment. It's almost like enjoyable leisure, fun, enjoyable adventure travel, writing that you're passionate about, skills-based learning and teaching that you're totally jazzed about and excited can bring prosperity to you. So this is an energy field for a lot of Sagittarius dealing with this right now, sun, moon, and rising. And it really does have, with that Pluto emphasis, a great deal more intensity than ever before. And you're going to note that you're coming into a testing time and an opening square, testing proof of concept about whether you can pull this off, as Mars is in your 7th house of long-term committed love and marriage, with pandemonium, panic, or pandemic energy here. And it squares the goddess of love in the house of reputation, and she's in her fall with the god of the underworld. It can be a fallen story for some of you regarding your reputation and a long-term love story. Oh no, we thought it was going to work. We're going to get divorced. But if you're not with somebody, don't get involved under this energy. Otherwise, you may have some career matters playing out this week, and you might sense around the, Wednesday through to Friday in particular, that you really have to deal with something very challenging through a client or a conflict with your love partner, committed love partner, and matters you're having to deal with in your career. Maybe you're struggling with that Venus and Orcus to get the financial achievement you think you deserve and the reputation you think is yours. Or are you breaking an oath? Is there a breaking oath energy in a career matter? Or is someone breaking an agreement? The oaths of the 10th house are wedding vows sometimes, right? Weddings take place in the 10th. Marriages and their vows and contracts are the 7th. It can look like a breaking of a wedding vow for some of you. And some of you it could be an engagement vow, a vow to move in together, or a vow that's already solid. You're married and looking like there's some tension in that vow. And there could be some breakage here for some Sagittarius is in long-term committed love. But nonetheless, she says cheerfully, it's just part of the testing of life. A legal contract violation, breakage, or difficulty regarding work situations, or a fracture with a client could happen here as well. Now, that aside, Mercury retrograding in your 9th house. Mercury is going backwards in the sky. He is going to trundle over territory he's already traveled. He traveled over territory. By the way, if you have a fracture in a long-term committed love story with Jupiter co-present, it's a blessed ending. Take it and run with it, okay? Because Jupiter's here as well. But also Mercury's retrograding in the 9th house of legal matters, foreign travel, visas. He's retrograding over territory he was traveling in the last 2 weeks of July. So how is it that you're going to go back and revise, rethink, redo, or renegotiate something? Renegotiate your visa, redo your visa, redo something on a legal footing or legal contract. Maybe revise a publication if you're into the book publishing world. There's some revisions needed here, but it's connected as well to Mars, because Mercury retrograde flows to Mars, and Mars is all about legal contracts. So it could advise a legal book publishing contract as well. And, don't forget, you have Pluto in the house of writing. So any of you Sagittarius who are writers are coming into a next 20-year era of greater power and potency and riches in the field of writing and publishing. So keep that in mind, Sagittarius, but also travel and learning and teaching are also on the upswing for you. You may hear from pastors, preachers, guides, coaches, mentors, psychologists, gurus from your past as Mercury retrogrades here. Keep that in mind too. That's this week. You feel the Mars sextile most broadly, Thursday through to Sunday, revising a legal contract, agreement, or vow, whether it's marriage, book publishing, or whatever. I don't know. I really don't know. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign, the sky is opening up. That synodic cycle reset button. Don't forget, you've seen this reset button before. This is back to, back in time in your little time travel device to December 22nd, 1997 to August 4th, 1998. The last time we saw Venus co-joining in Aquarius in your second house of money, earnings, possessions, resources, financially, food style, and facial appearance. That reset your button back then, Capricorn, in a big way. What were you doing? I bet you it was good because Mars is passion and drive, and he's a self-starter here. Venus is money, and you were resetting the money story. And of course, if I was really diving into that, I would outline all the houses they rule, but I'm not your astrologer. I'm just giving you general content. So energetically, you're resetting that second house yet again. And that reset button happened on March 6, 2022, and again, February 22nd, 2024. That ends on January of 2026. And it's done until 2054. So you got it now with Pluto power here too. Pluto's right here with Asteroid America. So how are you resetting from February of 24 to January of 26, your money and story, earning story, professional story? It's resetting. The energy of the reset button this time, right around, is definitely got different vibes as Pluto begins to emerge into the Aquarian realm over the next couple of years. So it definitely has more heft or weight to it. Although sometimes with Mars and Venus, you change your food style. I'm going to find foods that are more pleasurable that I really like. This is a testing opening square for your earnings and money reset button, as Venus is going to come into a square to Mars, and Mars is in your sixth house, and your sixth house is the house of work. Venus is in the house of foreign lands. The sixth house is a house of pets and tenancies and rentals and health matters, and Venus is in the house of foreign shores, foreign lands, visas, and travel. Third, marriages. You might find this testing one too, a third marriage environment. But remember, it all goes back to the money story. You're really trying to find that balance between finding financial resources that bring you pleasure and joy, that are prosperous, that require action and decisions that are bold and aggressive. If you guys aren't entrepreneurs, you could be under this, because that could create a great deal of entrepreneurial success as well. But with Venus as the ruler of your 10th house, a lot of you are looking for a higher job. You want to be employed quite often with that kind of energy. And so this opens up a testing challenge, but also maybe opportunity in the week ahead for some kind of work job opening, if you're looking for that kind of thing. If you're not, that's fine. Then it can be a major change regarding situations to do with rental properties, pets, debts. And we'll get to debts in a minute. Venus is with Orcus, the god of the underworld, in the 9th house. That's, prosperity. It's a Lakshmi luck house and a money house. So money from the underworld god in a luck house can be showing up here a little bit this week, especially, as I said, Wednesday through Sunday. But it also connects to work matters to me. So again, it's not coming out of maybe a lottery, but it may not be. It could be coming out, well, I'll revise that. Venus is the ruler of your lottery wins house, and she's in the house of bureaucratic institutions that governments have to give you the money. So maybe you're going to win some money too. It could happen this week. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen, Wednesday through Friday, probably. What else? Mercury is retrograding, and he's retrograding in your 8th house. 8th house is your chunky money, occult mysteries, hidden secret things, most karmatic place of your sky. And he's going over old ground he's been in since the first 2 weeks of July. The stock markets and investments can be your 8th house. And so, what was going on as he went direct the last 2 weeks of July, because he's pulling back now. He's taking back what he gave you, or he's reassessing it. It's a good transit in general to reassess, revise, and rethink your longer range chunky money stories. But if there's any kind of inheritance money from your past that's due to you or owed to you, that legacy wealth or inheritance money may be coming back out of the blue. As Mercury retrograde brings it back from the past. But he's also in a sextile, especially Thursday through to Sunday. You feel the Mercury sextile Mars, and that can look like paying off a debt. That can look like money allowing you to solidify your financial matters with your credit cards as well. The retrograde here is Mercury's also very much about talking to the dead. And so dead people from your past may be messaging you here for some reason, somehow, some way. You could find that Mercury talking to Mars could be negotiating a contract or agreement around the financial matters and the benefits attached to a particular job. All right, so that's another way that could play out Thursday through to Saturday. Please be careful with the destructive god asteroid Apophis here. This is a downdraft in your investments in the stock market if you're not careful. Mercury retrograde bumping into the asteroid of chaos or catastrophic outcomes. So please tuck all your ducks in a row here if you're in the markets here as a Capricorn, because this may just look like a really tough week on your finances in that regard. Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, and I am, yes, one of you. We are looking at a sky where we see that synodic recycle in the sign of us. We saw it back in 1997, December through to August of 1998. How do we reset our entire life? If it's your sun, it's your career, your moon, your body, home needs. But if it's an Aquarius ascendant, everything about you is on reset mode. Venus, what do you love? What brings you pleasure? What do you desire? Mars, where do you need to make changes, let go, separate away? And it is an interesting combination of oil, love and hate, oil and water trying to merge in the house of you. And in that time frame then of December of 97 to August of 98, you can go back and think about it only in the sense that that window of time was your exploration of this theme. I was peaking in a career, okay? I was peaking in a career and I was enjoying the run as an Aquarius. But I was also doing a major synodic cycle reset because I was pregnant with my daughter. I was even on a documentary for the BBC doing remote viewing while I was pregnant with her. I was on an NBC affiliate show while I was pregnant with her. So I was peaking out on one career as I got ready to reset myself. Now, Venus is a goddess of fertility and ovum and sperm, and Mars is endings, right? So I was beginning a baby and I was ending a career. So these are energies that you have to understand your chart a little bit more. Mars is a ruler of an Aquarian career house, and I ended a career path in that cycle, right? And there is that. And you have to consider all the layers of one's own individual chart in order to understand the deeper meaning. We're back again, but we've been back again for a while. We were back again March 2022 when Jupiter, Venus, and Mars co-joined at 0 Aquarius on that 0 degree great conjunction spot. It's a very sensitive degree in our sky. And so Aquarius people in general felt this very intensely, both because of the December 2021 reset button of Jupiter and Saturn on your ascendant or in Aquarius at 0 degrees. And now here it is again. This was March of 2022, Venus and Mars at the same degree. Big energy. And it's a reset of identity around finding what it is you truly desire. Venus, Mars, what you're willing to take action and decisions on in harmony with those desires. Okay. And marrying the action God with the desire God. And so in essence, we've been working on that for a while, and we reset that button in February of 2024. We really did. We said, okay, we're going to reset the button. If I go back to March of 22, my channel wasn't doing great. And I remember that it was in the summer of 22, I made a decision. The decision was to commit myself to videos, that I was just going to do that. I liked making them. And I thought, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to make lots of videos. I'm not going to be haphazard, half-assed. I'm going to just go for it. So how can you go back to March of 22 to February 24? And what decisions did you make to follow a desire fully, right? Committed to it, boldly. Take the action, go for it. Now we're doing it again, Aquarius, February of 2024, February 22nd, 2024, 6 degrees of Aquarius. The planets join together, and we've got until January of 2026 to execute the decisions of desires meets action that are going to bring us joy and happiness and prosperity. All right. Opening square testing us here, right? The opening square is saying, Mars in your 5th house, our 5th house, of children, of lovers, of romantic partnerships, of creative projects, of entrepreneurial endeavors, of fertility and pregnancy, squaring Venus in our 8th house of chunky money. Eighth house of secrets, eighth house of occult mysteries, eighth house of money we share with a spouse or a business partner, eighth house of money we invest in markets. So there's a testing window ahead this week ahead. I mean, like Wednesday through to Saturday, you're feeling it. And Mars is like, okay, we got to take some action. Don't forget Jupiter's with them. I tried to simplify the story, but it got some benefic overlord here. And Mars is saying to Venus, okay, things about your children are on the radar. Maybe money and children. You have to spend some money on a child this week, do it. It's a tension area, but it's something that's really propelling you to make a decision. You may have a sense here of a pivotal turning point around financial matters to do with chunky money and winning money. Jupiter, Mars in the house of lotteries. Jupiter, Mars in the house of gaming and gambling and winning financially. So this can be Orcus, the god of the underworld and riches, and Venus. It's definitely a story that can bring some Aquarius risings, particularly great prosperity through financial winnings in stock market winnings, and winnings through gambling, etc. Also, if there has been infidelities in an existing relationship, there can be catastrophic outcomes this week. So be careful. Mars cuts, ends, and severs, and Venus is broken oaths in the house of secret love affairs. This kind of stuff could come to a head in an existing relationship, especially with the sun moving into Virgo this week. And watch for difficulty in that regard in long-term love relationships. Mercury is retrograding in the 7th house, and this means the things you were doing July 15th at 2 weeks, you're going to go back over and reassess and revise as Mercury revises and reassesses those legal contracts, agreements, marriage environment stories, business partnership agreements, retrogrades backwards and takes something back, thinks about it twice, yet in a flow to Mars in the house of children, in a flow to Mars in the house of love and romance, in the flow to Mars in the house of creative projects, in the house of your entrepreneurial business. So there may be not necessarily an ending of an agreement, but a revising of an agreement, a rethinking it, retabling it, rescheduling it as well. I mean, maybe for me, for an example, I'm working with this agent for my astrology proposal. I probably agreed to her in the last 2 weeks of August that I get that to her ASAP, but my life is too busy, and I'll just revise that agreement with her this week and say I'm looking at Venus moving into Libra for me to go ahead and do that, which is more sensible on my chart anyway. So that's just a very benign version of that. But, we go back over agreements with our significant other here, right? So who is that other that you're going to revise an agreement with, or they're revising their agreements with you? That's a possibility, or agreements you've made with your children as well. So that's us. Let's see what happens. And finally, another long video, I think. We have it here for you Pisces sun, moon, and rising sign that you're going to experience the sky like you did in 1997 to 1998, December of 97 to August of 98. We had the conjunction in Aquarius of Venus and Mars. And that has occurred again, March 6th of 2022, again, February 22nd of 24, February 22nd of 24 ends January of 2026. And until 2024, it's not back, 54, it's not back again. So pay attention. This is hot territory. It's your 12th house. Look at Pisces, addictions. Do you have to let go of some self-undoing, self-defeating, self-sabotaging pattern, habit, addiction, or strategy? Because it's time to let it go. Yesterday already, Venus is pleasures, Mars is cutting. Cut the pleasures that undo you. Cut the destructive ways that you indulge in things that are not good for you in the secret solitude of your life. That's a good story for you guys. And were you trying to cut things out like that in December of 97 to August of 98? Go for it. It's back again. March of 22 to 24, you were doing it as well. Also, Venus is in solitude, and so is Mars. It's like literally in the dungeon, in isolation. These are periods of creativity and pleasure in isolation and solitude. That's what it can offer you. But what you're conjuring there is meant to bring you some greater benefits. It is ruled by Saturn. And so one way you could parse this in your natal chart is Saturn rules this section of your real estate, is you could parse it into matters connected to in your natal chart, the greater gains you wish to achieve from your career, right? So a lot of this reset could also open up getting rid of self-undoing, self-sabotaging strategies and increasing career gains. And with real-time Saturn in the house of you, improving your health as well. And making you a realist as well. You know, the cycle is testing you this week, and you're being tested Thursday through to Saturday, really. No, sorry. You're being tested more acutely Wednesday through to Saturday. And the opening square is Venus in your 7th house of marriage squares Mars in the house of the home. Not going to lie, it looks like problems at home with some significant other. So this is definitely, if you're married and living with your marriage type partner or cohabitating with a significant partner, it looks like duck on Wednesday the 21st to, say Saturday the 24th. That looks really like a tough time. Now, if you made agreements legally in any contractual arrangements regarding land, property, and real estate, especially construction companies and people renovating your home, there's just a contractual kerfuffle and some tension going on Wednesday the 21st to Saturday the 24th. But everything goes back to how you're going to get rid of your own self-undoing, right? So think about, and get rid of the hidden enemies that don't work for you anymore. So parse any challenges like, is your own self-undoing because your marriage partner is a hidden enemy? I mean, I don't know. If you don't have a marriage partner, what significant other people in your life are really not your friends? So maybe looking at that more squarely this week ahead. And, Mars down here with Jupiter, you have some luck and bounty in the home, and things are good in the home, and your actions and decisions in the home can be prosperous. And some of you had some luck in changing your home recently and can still do that for a while. But hey, Mars in the 4th house, even with Jupiter, is very confrontational in your domestic private life. And if you're being confrontational or being confronted by somebody in your life, it's likely somebody you're very close to. Venus in fall in the house of marriage with the god of the underworld, Orcus, is a darker story. And so I'm just warning you, this is not the easiest week in long-term committed love stories. It just isn't. Now, that said, Mercury is retrograde, and Mercury retrograding is in your 6th house of matters to do with work and health. He's been retrograding here. Well, it doesn't matter since when, since August the 5th, but he's going over old ground that he's covered in the last 2 weeks of July. And so that territory is being reinvestigated and revised. Did you make some job agreements and decisions and contracts? Did you make some health decisions and changes in your life in the last 2 weeks of July? Or matters to do with pets and rental agreements, especially in the last 2 weeks of July, that needs some rethinking, revision, or even changing your mind about. Mercury is in a debt house, karmic debt and real debt. And so when he revises something, goes backwards, there's sort of like a revision of debt. And Venus is the ruler of your house of mortgages and money and credit card loans. And so you may be going back over some money that you are owed or owe others in this last part of the week, especially Thursday through Sunday. But Venus is also the ruler of money you share with a spouse-like partner. And there's that sense again of that tension. So shared resources with another is in the energy field of a retrograde Mercury. What decisions do you make around shared resources with your marriage type partner in the last 2 weeks of July that you might be, or they might be rethinking or revising? But there's tension here. Keep that in mind. Now, ultimately, all roads lead to Rome. You could make money here in your 12th house, right? Venus, the goddess of money. Mars, the goddess of action and decision. So foreign land revenue, foreign short international borderless income and revenue is a strong possible success story for you with this conjunction, especially given Venus rules your 3rd house of the online world. So maybe some of you Pisces are thinking about making money in the online realm. And this conjunction with Pluto now moving into Aquarius is a big yes for you. Whereas it was more complicated and fraught with challenges in 2022, February, March, add 2 years. That cycle was complicated by many things. Okay. My Pisces rising sister had her PayPal account shut down with no good reason, with no recourse to fix it without paying a fortune in lawyers. And that derailed her online business, which was called Blind Faith Readings at the time. She's blind. But this time, if she wants to reboot, for example, as a Pisces rising, she'll be fine. She'll get that Pluto power to reboot the online Venus reset button of how she can create wealth through 12th house places. Now, if you were an astrologer doing this, you'll be so much deeper into it. You're like, okay, the conjunction happened in Aquarius, but it's ruled by Saturn, and Mars and Venus rule these houses in my chart. And it would be way more complicated, but I'm not here all day, guys, so I can't do it that way. But no, there's so many layers to how to interpret this, but I gave you the simplest, most basic meaning of it based on the house in which conjunction happened and based on what's happening in the opening square. Thanks for listening. I hope this was making sense to you. I know it's a bit of complicated astrology. Don't forget to like, subscribe, come study with me. Sky Readers coming up in the last weekend of September. I can't wait to teach it. It's my 5th time. It gets better every time I add new content every time. If you've taken it before years ago, try me again. It's gotten much more streamlined. And my all signs videos for 2024 individual videos are now more than half price, as well as the all sign video for the whole year. And this year's videos are being recorded starting next week and into the week after. I'll have them all done by October, I think. So stay tuned for the 2025 all signs videos, private purchase videos, but I'll be doing short quickies for the collective. Thank you guys. Bye bye. Don't forget, like, subscribe. You know the drill. Hit the notification bell.